With so much negative hype before the launch of Season 8, and now the announcement of the Season 9 Campfire Chat, how players actually feel might surprise you. The Campfire Chat is going to be on May 22nd. It's going to be at 11 a.m. That's going to be West Coast time in the US here. Set your clocks, be here. I made a post 13 days ago. It was just a week after the season launched. Just wanted to get a feel of where people were at, what they thought of the season, because going into Season 8, there was a ton of negativity. People were not happy about the way that the progression was supposed to be going, the way the boss powers had looked. After the season launched, people were actually very surprised. We had almost 800 votes. A overwhelming majority of people that played really loved the game, loved the changes, loved the feel of the new season. Myself included, I was very surprised. Coming from the PTR and going into the live servers, this was a huge change. They did a really great job with how it felt. We're going to go over all of the feedback that I have for Season 8 up to this point as we go into the new Campfire Chat for what's going to be happening with Season 9, which I'm very excited for also. Season 8 feedback here. First of all, number 0. We're going to start with probably hands down the most important part of this feedback for everybody is I want a no seasonal quest where I need to upgrade my potions. And if you want to know why, click that green link in the document right here. The document will be in the description of this video. But if you really want to know why, it's right there. The seasonal theme, we're going to start there. The reputation boards. Now, for anybody that hasn't been there yet, the reputation boards are where you go and you're going to level up by killing monsters. As you gain the reputation, you can loot all of these different caches as you get stronger and as you go through the season. They actually felt really great this season. The progression of them got better and better as you moved up. They gave you the materials that you needed in order to make sure that your character was like feeling strong. So it was actually a really good progression from level 1 all the way up to the final cache, which gave you your spark. Then something that they did really well was the caches after you hit your max level, you still continue to earn reputation, and then you can get guaranteed greater ancestral caches with a lot of materials in it. I have found some really good items just from doing those. So as you continue to play the game, you still get your more reputation. So those ancestral caches added in were really great. Then they took your seasonal currency, and then they gave you a way to spend that currency. You didn't have to cap out. You didn't have to sit there with... Some people told me they had 2 million ash just sitting there. So that's probably a problem in itself, but they gave us a way to spend that ash, which was really awesome. The incursions, they kind of felt forgotten. I spent enough time in there in the very beginning of the season to get the powers that I wanted. I ended up getting every single one of them, trying to find the one that I wanted, and then I never went back. I never thought about it again. Even when it was whispers, it really didn't feel like it was worth just walking over there to do it. So with whatever next seasonal event they bring in, hopefully it just has just a little bit more reason to go and play inside of the new seasonal event. The boss powers. On the PTR, when we got to test this, this was overwhelmingly strong. I was very worried, honestly, because I don't mind the addition of new borrowed powers every single season. It doesn't really bother me too much. I know it's a point of contention for some people. Some people want to see brand new things coming into the game, which I would love to see. When AOZ got added in, I loved that. That was amazing. The Seneschal was amazing from Season 3. So little things like that would be awesome to see. But the way that they changed the boss powers to integrate with your builds coming out of the PTR was actually amazing. I am hands down a fan of the boss powers now, which I really wasn't when we hit the PTR. You had to build your build around the boss power on the PTR instead of now in the season where the boss powers are being built around your character. I really like that aspect. So as long as that keeps on happening, the powers feel like a complement to your build, I'm perfectly fine with it. Adding in some new mechanics here and there, or a new dungeon, or a new whatever it is that's going to be in addition to the season would be really cool. But as long as the powers feel like it's adding to my build and not just the powers are my build, I'm okay with those. Crafting. Now this one right here, this one is a point that I know a lot of people really, really want to see change. Me personally, I really have no issues with it. I don't mind the tempering system at all, but I have gotten a lot of feedback from people that are in stream and a lot of people that want to see some changes. The list that we've come up with is going to be a couple things where like increasing scroll costs. So maybe it doubles every time that you use a scroll to reset it, or a set amount every time 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, something like that. Timed resets. So waiting a certain amount of time, maybe once every 2 or 3 days, maybe once every week. It would give you a chance to bring back an item that you had once a week, maybe give it a shot. But for people that don't really get as much time to play, I don't know if a timed option would be better. I do end up with a lot of scrolls because I love running the Infernal Hordes, but that's not for everybody. Picking your temper. I saw somebody throw this out, maybe picking your temper, having it roll just that specific temper, but you had that range where you can get, so it might not be perfect. And then you would brick it that way by having the temper you wanted, but maybe just not the best roll. Somebody threw out unlimited resets. I'm going to throw it in here, but I don't think that that is the best way to go. Spending expensive mats, maybe your Forgotten Souls or a Spark or something to unbrick a bricked one after your scroll has been used. Masterworking. This is the same as tempering. I actually really like the masterworking system. I like the click, click, click reset or skip. It just like, I just go into a little zone, wait for it to hit or not hit. Then I go to another blacksmith and try it there. And if it doesn't work, then I go back to farming. But there are a lot of feedback that we've gotten from people that they would love to see it go back one tier. If you hit the one you wanted at 4, and then you push past 4, you got to 8, you missed, they would like to see you be able to just go back to 4, and that was it. This would save you a lot of time, it would save you a lot of effort, a lot of material. Maybe just increasing material every time that you went back to the same one, or you had the option of just resetting it back to the first one. I don't know, but we'll see what gets addressed with masterworking. I saw eliminating 1 or 2 choices possibly. So while you're masterworking, you can pick the top 3 that you want to try and hit. If you pick your top 3, and if you go through there and you hit one of the 3, that gives you a 33% chance to hit a triple instead of a 1/5 of a chance with a full legendary piece of gear. And then finally, the eliminating clicks in between. So now it's 4, and then 8, and then 12. You have to click every single time. One of the things that we got for feedback, somebody wanted to see just, okay, let me hit my, which would now be 1 instead of 4, my 25% increase, and you automatically get the 5% all the way through. And then you go to your second tier, and then you go to your third tier, 1 click for each one. If you don't hit it, you reset. It's just 1 click instead of having to do 12 clicks every single time. Mythic crafting. With the drop rates of legendary runes, it can basically be impossible to craft at all. With 3 weeks in, I've been able to craft 1 mythic, and it was not one that I needed for my build. So the legendary runes definitely need a change, because if the mythics are going to drop, you should be able to craft a mythic at about the same rate that you get your runes to drop. So whatever the mythics are dropping, if they're dropping once every, let's say, 100 boss runs, then once every 100 boss runs, you should have enough runes in order to craft a mythic. You can either do that by increasing the drop rates to match mythic drops. You can decrease the legendary rune cost to craft mythics, make rune crafting more deterministic. So instead of having your runes craft as many different random rolls, you shrink that group down. You craft these 3 runes to get a chance to make these 3 runes. So just make it a little bit smaller to kind of upgrade your runes as you go. Or give us a place to go target farm some legendary runes. Gregoire will drop an Ahu rune or something like that. Gem crafting. After 3 weeks right now, and I love running the Infernal Hordes, I hop on with people every night, and the Infernal Hordes comes up pretty much every night as what everybody wants to go do. We do the Infernal Hordes, it's a great place to get gem fragments. I'm still missing 4 royal gems. That's just for 1 class. Now, if I'm running multiple classes and they all need the same gems, that means I'm removing them all, putting them all back in. So the gem drop rate for fragments definitely seems a little bit low. We're going to get into now some masterworking materials that we've been talking about a little bit. Veil crystals. At the very beginning of the season, this definitely felt like a bottleneck for me right away. This changed as new bottlenecks came up, basically. Once the Forgotten Souls became an issue, that I started stacking up more Veiled Crystals because of the way that I had to go farm for Forgotten Souls. So that my Veiled Crystals were not an issue anymore. It was just the Forgotten Souls. It's very limited the amount that you can drop from basically anywhere other than the caches, which the Whisper caches and the seasonal caches are great, but they're also not a way to go farm. The bosses drop 8, the Undercity drops 8, and the Undercity sometimes can take people, depending on their build, 3-4 minutes. Fast builds is much faster than that, but a slow build or a build that's just coming online, you're going to get 8 Forgotten Souls in 4 minutes. That doesn't really help when it costs 95 just to go to 12. That doesn't include any resetting or anything at all. So that's just to go straight to level 12 with your masterworking. You're going to get 95 is what you're going to spend. You're only going to get 8 of them in 4 minutes of doing the Undercity. Obticite Farming, I actually think this felt great this season. With the addition of the seasonal journey that gives you more chances to drop Obticite from the Infernal Hordes and from Nightmare Dungeons, this has been awesome. We did a lot of testing, and either one that you go and choose to do is a great option. If you go and do the Nightmare Dungeons or you go and do the Infernal Hordes, you're still going to get thousands and thousands of them per run. It was a really big change from last season to this season. So maybe we can just see this as the new normal. We'll keep this amount. We'll move forward with that because I actually really liked the amount that we got. People still have to hit their triples, still have to hit their doubles, but we're still going to spend it. This just felt like the right amount. Leveling. The new leveling progression, that was absolutely a big win for me personally. It was much faster than the PTR, but it definitely felt a lot more smooth. It was a lot more meaningful. It had a lot more purpose. With the escalating Nightmare Dungeons, I would absolutely 100% love to see that this becomes a part of the leveling process. I don't know what it's going to be. They're going to announce it during the PTR, what the escalating dungeons are going to be. But going back to when Nightmare Dungeons went up to level 100, I loved during the leveling process putting a build together as I'm leveling and seeing how high I could push those Nightmare Dungeons with a leveling build. And it actually made it so that I spent a lot more time leveling because I wanted to try out these builds and see if it would work and see how much I could push this character just for the fun of it. So I think that seeing a change like that would actually be pretty cool. So we'll see what they do with the Nightmare Dungeons that are going to be coming on to the PTR. This is probably a week, 2 weeks from now. I'm pretty excited. Legions. I didn't do a single Legion this season whatsoever. So I'm hoping that we can get a little bit more purpose into them. Maybe something that's going to be more beneficial during the leveling process. Maybe the ability to teleport to them. More of them around the map would be nice. If they're everywhere, then maybe there's going to be a reason why you're running by. You just go stop over there and do a Legion event as you're going through. The Legion events would be really, really nice to see. This is something that was taken away, and we don't necessarily need to bring it back. But Capstone Dungeons, I would love to see something like that again during the leveling process. It made it feel like you had so much purpose because you were pushing your character as you're leveling towards that goal. That was your first goal. And it was a big one. When you finally cleared that first capstone dungeon, you're like, I did it. I was ready. I can now move on. Then you get to your second one and you clear that. It's another really big achievement in that leveling process. And it felt really good. The fights were interesting. You had to be strong enough to do them. If you wanted to do them at low levels, you had to strategize of how you were going to do it. So I think capstone dungeon in some sort of way would be really, really cool. For the end game. Now, I know that everybody out there, there's a lot of people that say that there is no end game. There is end game. There's actually a lot of end game, and a lot more than a lot of the ARPGs that are out there. The reason that people say that there is no end game is because the end game is pretty linear. You create a build that can clear Torment 4, and you have now completed all of the end game that is out there. There is a lot to do. There's just not a lot of scaling. The pits is really the only place that you can scale right now. That's going to be changing probably with the Nightmare Dungeons. I don't know. We're going to find out soon. but it feels like they're pushing towards making sure that there is vertical progression and not just linear progression. So we'll see in the future how that comes up, with more coming from the roadmap that we haven't got to see yet. But there is Endgame. It's out there. We have a whole bunch of stuff listed right here. Multiple events that you can go and do. It's just once we start to feel that progression, I think that it'll change the way that everybody feels about it. Now, keep in mind, there are a lot of people, and I mean a lot, and I don't mean like a lot, I mean a lot of people out there that will never get to test any of this stuff on Torment 4. If you're watching this video, you are probably in that very small percentage of people that can push to Torment 4, Torment 3, Torment 2, whichever one you're going to cap out on. And you're going to feel like there is no end game because you know what a build guide is, or you know what the meta is, or you know how to build a character. The majority of people out there will barely make it into Torment 1 and will barely be able to kill a Torment boss. So taking all of that into consideration, this game is actually very difficult. You're just watching this video, that means that you're great and you've on the right steps, you've taken the right steps to get your character to clear all of the endgame content that isn't out there. So just remember that as we're thinking about what is and what isn't endgame. There needs to be a good balance, but it is a tough balance to do. Nightmare Dungeons, I'm very excited. We're going to be seeing exactly what this is. So hopefully this is going to be some great changes. I don't know what's going to come with it. I'm assuming it's probably already out there. But right now, at this point, I'm hoping that we can get some glyph leveling back into the Nightmare Dungeons, as well as the pits, so you can do it side by side. And maybe, let's say, the Nightmare Dungeons cap out at level 46 in your glyphs. Great alternative. You can go farm some Obticite, level up your glyphs to level 46. You're now gaining Masterworking material. You get your glyphs level 46, you masterwork your gear, you go head to the pits. Now you can push your glyphs higher because you've gotten the masterworking material you need. You prepared for the pits, and then you can start leveling up your glyphs even higher. Just something that I would love to see. I don't know if it's ever going to happen, but I just wanted to throw that out there. The Infernal Hordes, we're not going to even touch on that because that's going to be addressed coming up. And then we'll probably speculate a little bit more as we get into next season. The new lair boss system. Now, this season, Belial is absolutely great farm for literally all the stuff that you could possibly need. Material, Veil Crystals, Forgotten Souls, Ancestral Uniques. Unfortunately, the amount of mats that has flooded the market due to probably duping is not great. So hopefully there's a fix to that. I don't want to say that they should make it account bound because that doesn't make it a lot of fun, because then that takes out the aspect of having to play with your friends and going and doing Belial. And because the drop rate is random, there's no way to really sync up with your friends and say, okay, everybody, we're going to go farm this, so we'll all have the same amount of material. So I don't know what the solution is going to be for this, but it really definitely doesn't feel all too great. So all of the other bosses, they really kind of feel like an afterthought, and it could just be the amount of materials that have flooded the market. I don't know. But I haven't really run anything other than Belial at all. What I would like to see going into the future seasons, what might work. So in terms of the loot drops, because the loot drops and all the other bosses other than Belial just don't really feel great. But we have 3 tiers of bosses. Now, as you move up the ladder, it can get more rewarding, you get more mats. So if we do 1 bosses, you get no guaranteed ancestral gear. Then when we get to 2 bosses, 1 piece of guaranteed ancestral gear, which is going to be your Harbinger, it's going to be your Duriel and your Andariel. They all give you 1 guaranteed ancestral piece of gear. And then when you finally get enough to go and do Belial, Belial will give you 2 ancestral pieces of gear. That could solve how the bosses feel. Now, you can still have a chance to drop Ancestral from the tier 1 bosses, but as you move up the ladder, you get guaranteed choices. They need to probably buff the spawn rate of Baby Belial. A lot of people have said that they've been playing since the season started, and they have maybe found 30 at most. So that's 15 runs of Belial. Some people have said that they've ran 400 runs and gotten like 3 mythics. So that's not even close to enough for the way that's going to go. Loot sharing, that is definitely tough because of The drop rates, you have to constantly trade with people and give them the mats if they want to do it. So I don't really know if that's the best choice, but I do understand why they made the choice to make the mats the way that they did, which was a lot of feedback from the community that there were people joining rotations for bosses. They would not put their mats in. They would just wait until the end, and then they would leave the party. So that was some of the feedback that they were getting. So they responded to that with this system here. So the no mats to some of the bosses was actually a huge win. It allowed me to test my builds as I leveled up to see if I was strong enough. There is no key needed to get the whisper done. You can hop into the dungeon if it's a whisper, kill the boss. That's it. You get the whisper, you move on. I really, really like that because I like bouncing around and getting the whisper caches and go. So this was a really, really big one. The invulnerable phases inside of the bosses is definitely a talking point. Some people don't mind, some people hate it. Something that, just an idea to throw out there. Instead of stopping the fight at a certain amount of HP, if you're strong enough to one-shot the boss, allow a one-shot. But then, much like Lilith does in phase 1 to phase 2, have that boss, whatever it was, come back to life. Come back as a zombie. Come back with like blood dripping from them, missing an arm or something like that, where it shows that you just like annihilated this boss. It comes back to life and then you can kill it again. But it doesn't feel like you're just like did all this damage to it and then its life comes back up. And then you did all this damage and then the life comes back up. So just some thoughts on the bosses. The Undercity, just spice it up a little bit. Maybe when you run inside one of the brazier zones, it activates automatically, so you don't have to really stop and click on it. The bargains definitely need a rework. You can spend 50 million gold on one of the bargains, and you get a regular legendary gear that isn't even greater affix. So that definitely, I would like to see some reworks. Maybe something like once the bargain is paid for, you can hunt for a greater affix monster. Gives you an incentive to go around and kill things. When you kill that monster, whatever that bargain that you paid for becomes a guaranteed greater ancestral piece of gear. More options for just getting ancestral pieces of gear also. Maybe spend something that's going to be a little bit more valuable to get that guaranteed. The Dark Citadel. I actually really like running the Dark Citadel, and I grab people constantly in stream and stuff, and you don't even need to know how to do it. I just like coaching people through it and running people through this, what is a very fun dungeon to do as long as you know what you're doing. So I would like to see a couple things though. If you would love to see a monthly rotation on your map, doesn't have to be weekly, it can just be a monthly rotation, but just changing weekly objectives. What those weekly objectives could be, it could be something like a timed event. The faster you get to this boss, the more rewards you get. Or it could be like a highest kill. If you kill a certain number of monsters in a certain amount of time, you get more rewards, something like that. Then the weekly completion chest, at least guarantee it to be 2 greater affixes or 3 greater affixes, one of the two, whatever they settle on. And then rotate what that greater affix is. So that week 1, you get guaranteed to get a 2 or 3 star amulet. Week 2, guaranteed to get a 2 or 3 star weapon. Something like that. Just rotate things around, make more incentive to go there every single week. The pits.
Hello, my friend.
My one and only complaint with Diablo 4, other than the potions. So my second complaint with Diablo 4. Everything else I'm fine with. Love the game. Have 0 complaints other than this. Give me no dead ends in the pits. There are a lot of times where I clear all of the elite packs and then nothing happens. I'm sitting there waiting. The portal doesn't open. I have to run all the way back and then go up the portal and then find that one little pack that I missed. Well, I'm really, really hoping that we can see no more dead ends in the pits and a better monster density so that we don't have to backtrack and go up floor again. Glyph leveling definitely feels better. It seems like there is a really high chance to fail though, even at like a 70% success rate. I've had people tell me that they had 70% success rate and they missed all 5 times. Maybe just a rework to how we're actually failing and how we're actually succeeding with it. The highest pit, just became a damage sponge, which for me, I don't really mind. I actually really like the pits. I think it's super fun. I just don't know what other ways you could make those fights be more challenging with the amount of damage that the builds are doing. Remove the damage reduction monsters, that would be super nice. Reduce some of the lag. I really like how Blizzard has done loot content for higher tiers. They've done a really good job of keeping it even for everybody. The drop rates are all the same. You get more the higher torment tiers you go. So maybe you get more loot as you go higher into the pits. But Blizzard has done a great job of keeping it like everybody has a chance of getting the same gear no matter what they're playing on. You just have more chances of getting better gear as you go. So I really like the way that they've handled that, but I know that there are a lot of people that would really like to see, as you get higher up into this pits, give you something that is rewarding for pushing higher or doing harder content. It's a fine line to walk, but there needs to be some sort of balance, especially with the coming of the leaderboards in the expansion pack. You need to see some sort of balance so that there is some way that people can keep up with it. Some of the player feedback that we've gotten, the build balance. There's two different ways to look at this. If you look at the way that the pits work, the pits leaderboards currently, and this is unofficial, this is not an official Blizzard thing, but this is just the leaderboards that hellties.com does on their own. The Sorcs are currently sitting a whole 8 levels above all the other classes. Now you hear 8, you're like, okay, well, that's a small number. It is a huge number. The amount of damage that you need to do for a boss in 113 versus 121 is massive. So there is a huge discrepancy here. This one is not so bad. 107 to 111 is actually really not bad. So these top tier builds really are relatively balanced, other than the Sorc. Now, are they all running on things like broken mechanics or snapshotting or maybe something that's just overtuned? Yes. And when you go through the list, is there any build diversity? Not much. A couple classes have a little variation in what they're doing, but most of them are built around the same thing. So in terms of your top level builds and your outlier builds, the build balance is not really there. There's not much out there. But when you talk about Torment 4 builds, the Torment 4 builds are actually pretty diverse. I asked in chat who was running a Torment 4 build and what build they were running. And the list was pretty huge. I was actually very excited to see how many different lists and how many different people were out there running different builds. And some of them were off meta. Most of them were off meta builds that people were they were their favorite builds. They were having a lot of fun with them. They were able to clear Torment 4 content. So in terms of the Torment 4 capabilities, I really think that the build balance is in a really good spot. Reliquaries. This one right here was definitely a point of contention for a lot of people. It came under a lot of, I guess, pressure. So it is going to be addressed here. We had a post here showing that we're going to be talking about the reliquary system and more. So it's going to be adjusted. So don't worry, it's coming very soon. We'll find out on Thursday, 11 a.m. Make sure you stop by. I'll be live. I'm going to live stream it. So we'll get to all see what they're going to change to the reliquary system. And there were a lot of people that want to see more cosmetics. They took 500 platinum out of the battle pass. They did make it free, but they want to see at least given back a little bit of that. The collabs here. This one, I was a little worried when I saw the collab coming up for Berserk because people love Berserk. I was worried that when it hit the live servers, we weren't going to see much of an event. It was going to be some cosmetics, and that was kind of it. And that's kind of all it is. I'm hoping that as we get further into this collab, because they've already said that they're going to have more collabs, I'm hoping that the collabs are actually going to get bigger, grander, Bring in some new events, something that we've never done before. Something where maybe you put in even the character itself, like put Guts in Kyovashad, standing there where you have to go talk to him and go interact with him, run a quest for him, something like that, where it just like it gets bigger and better. So hopefully as we get into these collabs more, because they're announcing them now, they're looking into more, hopefully those start to get a little bit bigger. The pets, this was something that some people brought up. We have some really fast builds out there, but the pet doesn't keep up. You can fly through a nightmare dungeon, and all of your Obticite is just sitting back at the entrance because you killed the monster so fast, and you were moving so fast that the pet didn't pick them up. Now you have to go all the way back through the nightmare dungeon and pick things up again. So if we're going to make fast builds, we want fast pets. So hopefully we can get some fast pets. Sash base comes up every time. People want more and more and more. So this is something that they bring up every time. So this will probably come back up again. The loot. The mythic drop rate seemed a bit weird this season. Even if they lower the drop rates, for people that are brand new to the last couple seasons, there have been seasons before where the mythic drop rate was way worse than it is this season right now. So taking that into consideration, the drop rate is still high. It does feel like it is low, which it is lower than it was last season. And sometimes like the same item was dropping like 4, 5, 6 times, which was not great. Getting the Melted Heart of Selig 6 times in a row from a boss is not fun. So I think there might have been something a little bit weird with the way that the mythics were dropping. But season 1, one mythic was found in the entire world. Season 2, people were doing thousands of runs and getting no mythics. And in season 2, you could find a mythic that didn't have a perfect aspect on it. It could have a range on all the affixes and the aspects. So imagine finding one of those. So they've made a lot of changes to the mythics. There's probably something with the loot this season that's probably going to get addressed and touched on a little bit. Everybody has been asking for a loot filter, something that they can opt into, something that's going to just basically destroy all of the legendary gear that is in Torment 4. So we'll see if that has ever come. The last time that they talked about it, they said they had no plans for it. So I don't know if that's going to end up coming or not. Something that I personally would love to see is probably just removing attack power. Maybe reworking it, but I really think that just taking it out for now, it is really, really misleading, especially to new players. It's a huge question that I get asked a lot is, how do you have so much attack power? Why is my attack power only 100? When really it doesn't matter what your attack power is. You can have 100 attack power, but if you have all the multipliers put together, you're going to do big, big damage. I like to use the Season of the Spiritborn, where the Spiritborn was incredibly broken. The Spiritborn would have anywhere from like 4 to 12,000 attack power, and they would do not millions, not billions, not trillions, but quadrillions of damage. Numbers were through the roof. My Barbarian had 3.5 million attack power, and I was doing billions of damage. So the attack power does not matter. So hopefully that can get removed so that people stop putting on items that only affect their attack power, not their character strength. So something like damage numbers itself, just straight damage, is weighted very, very heavily into attack power, but very few builds actually use it. Barbarian, if you put on something like damage while berserking, that's not going to have as much attack power added into it as straight damage will, but damage while berserking will increase one of your legendary nodes, which is going to give you way more damage because it becomes a multiplier. So hopefully this is something that gets changed, because it is definitely a huge question that everybody asks that is really definitely just a little misleading. Goblabos. We're going to talk about the goblins. I want to see more of them. They're really cool. The new ones are really great. The drops from them are awesome. During the leveling process, I really didn't see much of it at all. And when I did find one, and I actually found one on the PTR, not in the live server, when I found one on the PTR, it gave me the gold that I needed to get set up on all the way to level 60. Then I found some obols, and the obols gave me the gear I needed to get into the pits. So we did a whole rework on the goblins. So let's see a little bit more of them, because they're really, really cool, and I really, really like them. Someone brought up that the sellers don't really seem to be scaling too much, so I would like to see, I don't think they scale with World Tier 4. And then outside of Whispers, they don't really have much of a purpose. So maybe just a rework, a rehash of the sellers. Clans. Now, I actually now have 2 clans. So if you guys want a clan, there's some room in the clan. It's going to fill up pretty quick. Hop into Discord. The link is at the top of the description of this video. Join Discord, go down to the clan queue channel, put your Battle.net tag in there. We'll get you into the clan, but get there before it fills up. It's been amazing this season. We have had people in literally since day one, all in voice chat. We had probably like 20, 30 people in voice chat today, different groups, all running stuff together. Get yourself in. It's super fun. What I would like to see, the addition to having the show where like the last time someone logged on was amazing. But we have, in order to keep people rotating in whenever somebody goes inactive, we remove them, add somebody else in, and then they're more than welcome to rejoin if they come back and start playing again. The problem is, if they show offline, they get removed. So they could be somebody that's playing every single day, but if they're showing offline, it doesn't register inside the clan. So maybe if the officers at least can see who is online would be amazing. A clan stash tab would be super cool. Then we could share boss mats among the clans. We could share potions, elixirs, whatever it is. Share gear. Put some permissions on it so that it can be like officer withdraw only or members withdrawal only, or a much better invite system. The invite system, if you have never had to run a clan before, the invite system hurts a little bit. Right now we're running it through Discord. That's how we have to do it because it's the best way to manage it. You can only have 25 pending invites on the in-game clan. And so what we have to do now is we have to add somebody, we have to message somebody, get their Battle.net tag. Then we have to go in game, then we have to add their Battle.net tag. Then they have to accept the friend request. Then we have to invite them from the friend request into the clan. Once we've invited them, then they have to go in and they have to accept the invite to the clan to get into the clan. If they were applying from the clan, they apply to the clan, we have to accept them, then they have to accept the accept in order to get into the clan. So I'm hoping that we can see a little bit of changes to the invite system for the clan. Now, I know this doesn't affect a lot of people out there, but for me personally, it definitely does affect me. So, and my officers would love it. This one came up, which I actually thought was a really cool idea. Clan tags. So for us, it's Kryptonian Legion. You can see it right up here in the corner. The CL is the clan tag. So having a banner on your horse that says CL, and everybody can have their CL on their horse as they run around through the world. And when they come into the world boss and a party of 4 all say CL, it'd just be kind of fun to see, some camaraderie. Customizable rank names would be amazing. This way we can change it, we can add things in. Just some more customization into the clans would be awesome. Somebody wanted to see a clan boss. That would be pretty fun to do. PvP, a little bit more focus on the PvP world. Maybe having some updates to the cosmetics, leaderboards in the expansion pack when that comes out. And then consumables. Just a little bit of increased time on the consumables. If 30 minutes with a 15-minute pit, and then travel time back and forth means that no matter what, you have to refresh all of your consumables if you came right down to the wire on that pit run. So you could still have 14 minutes left, but you have to refresh them because if you don't want to stop, if you cleared that pit or you just missed that pit by 15 seconds, you can't stop to refresh all of your consumables. So having that a little bit longer time, or maybe an hour on your incense and stuff, would be super fun. This way you don't have to constantly refresh every single time you come out of one. So that's what I have for the feedback on the public test realm. However, the most important thing that I really want to talk about for this is that I absolutely love Season 8. This has been an absolutely hands down super fun season. They add the boss powers in, which are amazing. It really fits in really well with your character. And it really ranks, well, honestly, pretty high up there with some of my favorite seasons. I like Season 3. I like Season 2. The introduction of the vampiric powers was just, honestly, probably my all-time favorite. It was really good. The Loot Reborn season was super good. There's been a lot of seasons out there, but I absolutely really have had a blast in this season. And for me, the way that I can tell that this is a good season is just the amount of people that are still in Discord, that are still playing, that are still in the clan online. I just check it every day that I log in. There are just people still playing. So if this trend continues, with the way that the seasons are going, with the way the balance is for the classes, with the way that the changes to maybe the Nightmare Dungeons are coming up or the Infernal Hordes, I have really, really high hopes for how things are going. Yes, there's a lot that people want to see changed, but I get to see how the devs work, and they are absolutely 100% on board on making this really, really work for the majority of people out there. I'm super excited to see the live stream that's coming up on Thursday. But thank you everybody so much for watching. I appreciate it. I'm live every night. I'd love it if you stopped by, said hi, theory crafted with me. Catch you on the clip side.